My name is Ludovic, and I wanted to share this testimony in memory of my brother, who passed away on April 11th, 2007. This is also an expression of solidarity with those who suffer from empty nose syndrome, and on behalf of the association Empty Nose Syndrome France, of which I am a member. Although I do not suffer from this syndrome personally, I have been indirectly affected by it. In July 2005, I spoke with my brother, who informed me he was going to have a septoplasty for a deviated nasal septum. At the time, he frequently complained of nasal obstruction. A sinus X-ray in December 2004 revealed discrete mucosal thickening in the lower part of the left maxillary sinus and in the outer part of the right maxillary sinus, very partial filling of ethmoidal cells, and deviation of the nasal septum to the left. Following this, my brother consulted an ENT specialist. After reviewing my brother's entire medical file multiple times, I found no treatments or interventions aimed at clearing the sinuses. Instead, the ENT recommended a septoplasty directly. My brother signed an informed consent form for anesthesia and was only given information about the septoplasty, not being informed that it would be associated with a turbinectomy, a surgery to the nasal turbinates, finger-shaped organs in the nose. Consequently, he was unaware of the risks and complications related to this procedure. I also suffer from chronic nasal obstructions during certain times of the year and have a septal deviation due to an accident. I had consulted an ENT specialist shortly before my brother's first operation. This specialist informed me about septoplasty, but advised against it due to potential debilitating effects afterward. I later understood what he meant, but he couldn't elaborate since empty nose syndrome was not recognized by the scientific community or ENT specialists in France at the time, even though it was acknowledged in other countries. Many ENT specialists are aware of the problem but refuse to talk about it since they benefit too much from these surgeries. On August 8, 2005, my brother Sylvain underwent a septoplasty with a complete bilateral turbinectomy of the inferior turbinates. The term turbinectomy did not appear in the preoperative medical file, but was later added to the operating room sheet, seemingly by another person, as it was written differently. The following words were added: turbinectomy and concha bullosa, opening X2. These notations were added during or after the operation. In 2006, my brother began to suffer from severe headaches, anxiety, significant ENT pain, frequent sinusitis, sleep problems, and fatigue. I noticed changes in his behavior: anxiety, nervousness, depression, aggressiveness, and a feeling of being attacked without paranoia. He struggled with professional and leisure activities like skiing or paragliding due to altitude changes causing him pain, and he avoided dusty or dry places. He even asked me not to make a fire in my fireplace when he visited. My brother had a successful professional life, a good income, and 2 children. Realizing that his problems stemmed from the operation, and that his condition was worse than a blocked nose or chronic sinusitis, he sought other specialists. Another doctor suggested reconstructing the nasal cavity by removing the middle turbinates to graft them in place of the lower turbinates. My research found no scientific literature on such an operation, rendering informed consent void due to the lack of recognized documentation. This operation went poorly, resulting in a hemorrhage and rejection of the graft. By December 2006, my brother was left without lower and middle turbinates. I believe he was used as a guinea pig. Complications continued: permanently infected sinuses, unbearable pain, loss of libido, leg pain, excessive fatigue, reduced sleep 3 to 4 hours per day, night terrors, significant depression, claustrophobia, and a stronger suicidal tendency. He had to use damp cotton balls in his nostrils to limit and humidify the incoming air. In his last operation, meant to clear the sinuses in an emergency at a university hospital, the report noted a disabling surgical after effect instead of empty nose syndrome, which would be recognized today. After this operation, my brother was on high-dose opioids until his death. On March 22, 2007, my brother called me, saying he was going to end his life, though I had seen him the day before. I immediately went to Annecy and to his home, where my sister-in-law was waiting. At the police station, a lieutenant requested to locate my brother via his cell phone, which he fortunately had not turned off. With the help of the police, we found him alive the next day, wandering the streets of Annecy. Following this, I had to have him admitted to specialized care against his will, HDT, to find solutions and give my parents and me peace of mind. This decision was incredibly difficult and remains the hardest I've ever had to make. After a week, the specialized care center released him at my father's request due to important medical and professional appointments. On April 4, 2007, my brother called my father again, expressing his suicidal intentions. He did not call me, wary of my proximity. My father immediately contacted the gendarmerie and firefighters, who intervened just as my brother was about to jump off the Caille Bridge, spanning a 250-meter chasm. However, at the hospital, no one was available to sign an HDT. My sister-in-law was absent, I was unaware, and my parents lived in Rouen. My brother was released the next day. An HDT cannot be arranged by phone and must be signed on the day of immediate hospitalization. My brother ended his life on April 11, 2007, at the same place where he had been caught during his second attempt, leaving behind 2 small children. For a while, I was angry with him, but looking back, I realized that I might have done the same thing, given the pain and the irreversibility of his condition. In his last days, my brother was completely disconnected from reality due to the large doses of opioid tablets he took for pain, strong opioids in his case. I was very angry with these doctors. Today, I feel nothing but disgust towards them. He did not commit suicide. He ended his physical suffering that was unjustly inflicted on him. My father and I filed an appeal with the CRCI. These 2 people were found responsible for the suffering inflicted. My nephew and niece received a posthumous, derisory sum, which I describe as shameful, given the loss of their father. In fact, this is the amount my brother should have received if he had pursued this during his lifetime, a sum awarded for the suffering inflicted and the inconvenience caused. The CRCI refuses to establish a causal link between these 2 procedures and my brother's death. Two investigations were commissioned by the CRCI. During the 2 commissions of inquiry that my father and I attended, I noticed several things. The death of my brother did not seem to affect these 2 individuals or their colleagues present to assist them during these investigations, who were of course commissioned by their insurance companies. I doubt they even realized that their actions led a person to end his life. I ask myself, how do they look at themselves in the mirror in the morning? Do they have any problems with their conscience? I think they don't, since they still practice this debilitating excision. They don't have any problems of conscience because, for them, they didn't force my brother to jump. How can a psychiatrist, a professor, not understand that a person sleeping 3 hours a day under powerful opioid treatment, suffering excruciatingly, would eventually want to end it? A 10-year-old might understand that. How are professors and doctors incapable of linking my brother's suicide to his condition, caused by the successive interventions of these 2 individuals, especially when they know very well the function of the nasal turbinates from their years of study? It wouldn't take long for a sane person with minimal intellectual background and very little study to figure it out. In conclusion, I refer to a speech by Xavier Bertrand, the Minister of Labor, Employment, and Health, at the General Assembly of Health. A person should not leave a hospital more damaged than when they entered. In my brother's case, he was indeed left more damaged by these 2 interventions. What I can finally say is that, faced with this problem, many ENT surgeons stand together in a sacred union, refusing to admit the reality and their errors. Despite this operation dating back more than 100 years, no study exists to see the damage. Yet the reality is clear. Empty nose syndrome still affects people, many of whom are in poor condition or no longer here to talk about it. Ludovic. SNVF Association, November 5, 2018. My brother's full name was Sylvain Barthelemy. He passed away in France at the age of 38 on April 11, 2007. Sylvain is just one of hundreds of people who were forced to end their lives after suffering from empty nose syndrome, caused by turbinate reduction and septoplasty. His story is a tragic reminder of the devastating consequences of these surgeries. Let us honor his memory by raising awareness and advocating for safer medical practices.